Okay, it's finally fight week for the first pay-per-view of 2022, UFC 270, featuring the biggest heavyweight championship match probably in UFC history. I mean, I can't think of a bigger one than this. I am proudly repping my 2008 UFC 91 signature tee, where Brock Lesnar, the former bad boy of the UFC heavyweight division, before Francis Ngannou, there was Brock Lesnar as the most intimidating looking heavyweight champion, beating Randy Couture for the strap at UFC 91. So I'm proudly repping that. Hopefully Cyril Gane can follow in his footsteps at UFC 270 and become and new heavyweight champion of the world. So I'm excited for that fight. Very, very excited for the co-main event as well. Brandon Moreno taking on Deiveson Figueiredo, the third fight these two have had, and it's finally a rematch where I'm actually interested in it. There's been a lot of rematches I'm not that interested in. I mean, we had Usman versus Covington too. Okay, not that hard to predict, honestly. You've got rematches galore in the women's divisions and whatnot. But I'm very excited for this fight in the flyweight division. I think this is a very puzzling, very intriguing, and very exciting matchup. So I'm looking forward to all of it. Let's get into it, starting from the bottom of the prelims. Okay, starting off the night, I believe this is going to be the first fight on the early prelims, is Jasmine Jusudivius making her UFC debut against Kay Hansen, who is, Kay Hansen's coming off of the loss to Corey McKenna, and whereas Jasmine Jusudivius is coming off of a Dana White Contender Series win over that, what was that Brazilian girl's name? Julia Palastri. So, again, Julia Palastri physically is kind of like Kay Hansen. She was about the same height, gave up height to Jasmine Jusudivius and gave up reach as well. As far as other measurables here, Kay Hansen is a full 10 years younger than Jasmine Jusudivius, even though Kay Hansen is the more experienced professional mixed martial artist. She has more cage time, more professional fights, and she has a better resume as far as just finishes on the ground. She has like 5 round 3 submissions in her career, and one of them is over Jinyu Frey, who's in the UFC. And that was around, so it's very impressive to see round 3 finishes at women's strawweight. And it's just impressive to see the round 3 finishes at this level in general. You want to see their skills carry late, and you want to see them get better as the fight goes on. But I don't know. As far as both of these women, I mean, their skills are just a little bit underwhelming. This is definitely an early prelims fight. I don't know how anybody could really be too confident in either side here. And when I get a coin flip fight where Kay Hansen is a minus 255 favorite, very, strong favorite, I don't really know why. And the comeback plus 205 underdog on Jasmine Jusudivius, I'm not sure why the line is so wide. I know Kay Hansen is kind of more of a popular up-and-coming women's strawweight, but I don't know. When it's a coin flip fight and I get plus 200 on the underdog here, women's MMA, low level, I kind of just go to some of the stronger measurables, like the long reach. I know that besides the reach and the height advantage she's going to have, she's also fought a lot of her career up at flyweight. And I think the last time that she fought at strawweight, she lost to UFC veteran Elise Reed back in Cage Fury Fighting Championship. So that's definitely not a good sign. But sometimes I just go off the physicality, and if Kay Hansen's never fought anybody that long or that large, I'm not sure how she's going to get her grappling game implemented as well. So again, we got to see the weigh-ins for this one, see how they actually match up. Sometimes these size differences on paper are very deceiving, and they actually might look the same size come weigh-ins. But for right now, coin flip, low experience women's MMA fight. I'm going to take the underdog stab to start off the night on Jasmine Jusudivius, mostly because of the plus 205 underdog value on her, but also just because of her physicality. Okay, next up we got Matt Frevola taking on Gennaro Valdez. Two guys about the same age, even though Valdez is lacking a little bit of experience compared to Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola, a UFC veteran, established already, although he is coming off of that 7-second 1-2 knockout from the young up-and-coming Terrence McKinney over the summer. So he's coming off of that, trying to bounce back here in this spot, and this looks like a good matchup for him. Matt Frevola right now is a minus 200 favorite with the comeback plus 170 underdog on Valdez. Now the lines, obviously, when this, like most undefeated prospects, like this guy's 10-0, a lot of times once the odds drop, they open up with that guy with the giant streak being the favorite before the odds makers actually look into seeing that a lot of the guys he's beaten are really not that experienced. He's crushed a lot of cans in the regional scene, but then he came to Dana White's Contender Series and got a nice early second round stoppage over Patrick White. So that was a great to see that he's not just a can crusher. He can, get his way into the UFC, earn a contract, but a lot of his finishes are, first round knockouts, first round submissions, early second round stoppages. Not a whole lot of decisions on his resume. I'm not really too sold on how he's going to perform late against somebody who can put the pressure on from pillar to post like Matt Frevola. Somebody who's been there, somebody who's actually fought some legitimate competition. I think that the skill discrepancy is just a little bit too wide. And as long as we're assuming that Matt Frevola's durability is not shot, we're hoping that Terrence McKinney 7-second knockout was just a flash in the pan. If his durability holds up and he can avoid getting blitzed early by Gennaro Valdez, I think he's going to drag him into later waters and get a nice decision victory here. Again, minus 200, it's kind of a high price to ask for Frevola. I don't see a lot of extra value on that. I think it is priced appropriately. But I'm not going to lay minus 200 on a guy who just got knocked out in 7 seconds. I want to use this as kind of a fight to data collect, see if Valdez is a good prospect, and see if Frevola can bounce back here. So I just want to take this fight to learn. I don't want to bet on this one or have too much exposure on it. So I am going to take Matt Frevola to win by decision. Okay, talk about coin flip women's MMA. Once again, the second and final women's MMA bout of the night, and they're really just not representing the women too well with these matchups that they have on UFC 270. We've got Silvana Gomez Juarez taking on Vanessa Demopolis, and both women are coming off of their only UFC appearance, and both of them coming off of a loss as well. So we'll see. Loser leaves town probably, or maybe they both will leave town. I don't really know what the future lies. At women's strawweight 115, and both of these women are pretty old to just be getting to the UFC, honestly. I mean, Vanessa Demopolis, 33, and Silvana Gomez Juarez at 37 years old. So, I mean, it's kind of, like I said, I think it's a coin flip fight. I don't know how anybody would be very confident in picking a side on this one. So, I'm sure a lot of people will just be going with Silvana Gomez Juarez just because she is the plus 120 underdog. Why not get, if you're flipping a coin, why not get plus money on it? With the comeback minus 140, slight favorite for Vanessa Demopolis. I don't know. The size is almost the same, an inch apart in reach and height. I don't even know who's the better striker here. I mean, Vanessa Demopolis looks okay sometimes, and she's fought on some big stages at least. She's fought in LFA. She's been in the Contender Series, and now she's in the UFC. Losing to J.J. Aldrich, I'll give her a pass. J.J. Aldrich is a solid prospect. Silvana Gomez Juarez, 10-3. I mean, I don't really know. She might be the better striker, maybe. I mean, if you look at the tape, it's just hard. A lot of these, both of these women are just a little inconsistent. Vanessa Demopolis, better grappler, but I think she's going to have a hard time getting the fight to the ground. I mean, her grappling stats are pretty non-existent. How's she going to get the fight from standing to a ground position where she can work a submission? I'm not quite sure. That is a path to victory against Silvana Gomez Juarez. She was in her first UFC appearance, filled in short notice for Lupita Godinez and got submitted right away. So that's a path to beating her, right? And Demopolis shares that common opponent. She was at least able to take Lupita Godinez to a decision. At least she was able to get to a decision with her, compared to losing in round one. So I guess you give her that edge, and because of that, that is the only reason I'm going to pick her to win this fight. So I'm picking Vanessa Demopolis to win this fight. Total, I wish I had a coin here so I could flip and just assign heads and tails to them. That's how low confidence I am in picking a winner here. But younger fighter by a bit, maybe better grappling stats, and she at least went to a decision with Lupita Godinez. So Vanessa Demopolis by decision is my pick. Probably a split decision. It's women's MMA. Well, up next we have kind of a fight that I'm pretty excited to see, honestly, just because I'll get to learn a little bit about each guy. And that is this fight of Michael Morales making his debut in the UFC against Trevin Giles. And Trevin Giles is making a debut of his own. This is his first fight at 170, which is part of what makes this a puzzling and intriguing match, because Trevin Giles has not been the most trustworthy guy. He makes a lot of fights close that I don't think he should make close. His fight IQ is a little bit questioned sometimes, the decisions he makes. I know he's like a part-time police officer, part-time UFC fighter, so sometimes we just want to use that as a narrative to why maybe he hasn't been looking like he's training for a fight, why he makes the decisions he does. Sometimes he just looks a little lackadaisical in there, like he doesn't really have a clear game plan, and he'll make just questionable decisions playing into his opponent's game plans a little bit, and it's cost him in a few matches here, but he has had some decision wins, a couple finishes, but he's coming off of that loss to Dricus Du Plessis in round 2 knockout, which you can't really blame him for that. Dricus Du Plessis seems like he has a really, really high ceiling. I don't think a lot of people expected Trevin Giles to beat him in that match, and he kind of got steamrollered. So he's looking to bounce back from that loss last summer. And Michael Morales is a guy who's got very, very good physical gifts for this light weight class at 170. I mean, the guy's got an 80-inch reach. He's 6 foot tall and only 22 years old. So he's got to be getting better and better. We should see some improvements from fight to fight. And he's currently undefeated as a pro. Again, a lot of these guys in the regional scene that he's beating them in like very, very small promotions. It's not like it's LFA or Bellator or anything like that. Not even CFFC, but it's some lower promotions before coming into the Contender Series, where he picked up a unanimous decision win. So it's good to see a guy with a lot of quick finishes, a lot of quick. I think most of the pro wins on his record are all finishes. He's got a few decisions here and there, but the large majority are round 1, early round 2 finishes by both strikes and a couple submissions sprinkled in there. So I mean, the guy's got skills. He's kind of definitely like a generalist. I like his hands that we saw in the Contender Series. He and again, he just has that nice long frame, and it's something that could really be advantageous at 170. I just don't think this is the place to do it. I think he will have success, but barring seeing Trevin Giles miss weight on the scales or just look horrible coming into this fight, come weigh-ins on Friday, I see Trevin Giles winning this fight. The only thing that bothers me is Trevin Giles sometimes has very, very low output in his fights. So I could see Michael Morales capitalizing on, maybe he wins the first round. Trevin Giles is a little bit slow to warm up. Trevin Giles comes back, evens it out in the second round. It's 1-1 going to the third, and then Trevin Giles for some reason drops the ball and gives Morales a decision. I could see something like that. I don't see Trevin Giles getting finished. Again, barring some unforeseen, horrible mishap with his weight cut to 170 for the first time. But I see Trevin Giles, and his resume just speaks volumes. He's got so many highly skilled opponents compared to what this young Michael Morales has seen at 22 years of age. So I'm going to give it to the veteran Trevin Giles to get this one done. Do I like trusting him, especially at we are getting plus money on him, but it's still, to trust Trevin Giles, I mean, I got to have some real plus money on him. I can't just, I can't have like a plus 110 or and probably anything lower than like plus 150 for me to pull the trigger on betting Trevin Giles, to be honest with you. So let me see. I don't even think the line has flipped yet. I know it's getting close to a pick'em fight, which is actually kind of crazy for a guy as inexperienced as Morales is. Let me just take a second look at it here. Okay, yeah, so, there's still money coming in on Morales, minus 145, and Trevin Giles plus 120. Again, it's not a high enough number for me to take a stab on Trevin Giles. I want to use this fight as kind of like an opportunity to data collect, see what Morales does under the bright lights of his UFC debut against a guy like Trevin Giles. And for Trevin Giles, I want to see him employ a better game plan and make the weight cut to 170 successfully and not look horrible. So, but I am going to predict Trevin Giles to edge out a decision here, just using his veteran savvy, and hopefully, mixing up a better game plan this time. Okay, up next we got Simon Oliveira versus Tony Gravely in the bantamweight. This is another one of those cases. This is going to be a common theme on this fight card, of course, where we've got UFC debutant, head full of steam, fresh off of the Dana White Contender Series, a shiny-looking 18-3 record, taking on a more established name in the UFC division, and that is Tony Gravely, 21-7. And Tony Gravely, honestly, if you just look at this match on paper, it looks like Simon Oliveira would have a kind of a path to victory here with the submission game that he has. I mean, he's got a bunch of quick submissions on his record, a lot of guillotines, a lot of round one guillotines on the regional scene. And who does Tony Gravely sort of struggle with? It's usually very, very good grapplers, very, very good submission artists. But I mean, you look at his record, he's only losing to like the best of the best. You're looking at like Merab Dvalishvili. You're looking at Pat Sabatini earlier in his career, Patchy Mix, Brett Johns as of recent fights, and these are guys that are just on a whole different level than where Simon Oliveira is at. And I think Tony Gravely actually will have the edge in the just the pure wrestling in this fight. Tony Gravely does a good job of just having just good enough grappling and wrestling chops to kind of fake the level change and throw overhands, things like that. He works his strike that way. He's got heavy hands, and I think that his veteran savvy is going to have the advantage over the lesser experienced Simon Oliveira. I think Simon Oliveira's record is a little bit padded, of course, as a lot of these Dana White Contender Series debutants are, which is fine. I mean, they got to start somewhere in the UFC, and I think Simon Oliveira, I think he will have some success in the division. He's got good physical attributes for the division, but I just don't think this is a good spot for him. I think this will be a bounce-back spot for Tony Gravely to come back after his loss to Nate Maness. And the only thing that would worry me is the gas tank of Tony Gravely. Sometimes when he's getting backed up and kind of the pressure is getting put on him from his opponent, he will tend to fade as the fight goes on. But I don't see that being an issue with Simon Oliveira, as with a lot of these guys off the Contender Series. They just have a lot of round one quick finishes in the regional scene. And he's coming off of a decision win over Jose Alday, split decision win. And again, the output sort of dropped at the end, so I don't see that being an issue. I think that Tony Gravely, even though his cardio is sometimes questioned, I think he will get the better of Simon Oliveira, and I could see either a late finish or a decision win for Tony Gravely. There's just not a lot of data to show that, and not a lot of holes in Simon Oliveira's game that I could see being exploited, besides maybe the fact that sometimes I think he is a little bit hittable. He leaves opportunities open on the feet that I could see Tony Gravely exploiting. So if he does get tired, I could see a late finish for Tony Gravely. But I'm going to predict a Tony Gravely by decision, unanimous decision win for Gravely over Simon Oliveira. As far as the odds go in this one too, Tony Gravely is a pretty heavy favorite here at minus 250. I don't think there's a whole lot of value on that to come back for the underdog Simon Oliveira plus 200. Again, I don't see a lot of value on the underdog either. I don't think that there's, it's not juicy enough of a number for me to take a stab on Simon Oliveira. I think that the line is pretty accurate, to be honest with you. So this is going to be a pass betting-wise for me. Okay, kicking off the main prelim card now with... Man, one of the most confident picks I think a lot of the MMA handicappers have for the night, which is Jack Della Madeleine taking on a short notice replacement in Pete Rodriguez, and so both guys making their debut here. So both guys young, 25 years old. The measurables give a couple inches of height, 5'11" versus 5'9", in favor of Jack Della Madeleine. And he's coming off of a very, very impressive Contender Series fight. If you haven't seen his fight, I would go check that out. I mean, he's definitely touted by the UFC as being one of the next big things. I think Dana White thinks he's got a high ceiling to him as well, and he definitely looks the part. I mean, I think he's going to be more skilled than his opponent here. Pete Rodriguez almost everywhere in this fight. I mean, his striking is definitely going to be... Pete Rodriguez, you know, if you look at his professional fights, he only has a few of them, but 4-0, and he can hit hard, so I think he's got a puncher's chance here. But man, at 170, Jack Della Madelena looks pretty good, touting a 10-2 record. And like I said, that Contender Series fight was pretty impressive against a guy that was 7-1 coming in. And back in September, that just again, to get a decision win over somebody who was such a high favorite as Jack was, had a few of us who bet on him, kind of sweating a bit, but he fought at a pretty good pace in rounds 1 and 2, and on his record, he's got a lot of finishes. So that was kind of nice to get that data collection that he can, not just death gas in a 3-round fight and actually win when he doesn't just blitz his opponent early like he has most of his professional career, once again. But at least if you're fighting cans on the regional scene, make them look like cans on the regional scene. And that's what Jack Della Madelena has done. He's on a huge win streak here. I think he's on a 9-win streak. I think his first 2 losses or his only losses so far. So he was humbled early in his career, made the improvements, and at 25 years old, this is what the 170 division needs in the UFC right now. So give me Jack Della Madelena. I think he can get it done inside the distance by KO, TKO. I'd say round 1 KO, TKO for Jack Della Madelena. As far as the price goes on this guy, he's got to be one of the biggest favorites on the card. I mean, there's just no way around it. The skill discrepancy is just so apparent to everybody in the betting community. So the market's going crazy for Jack Della Madelena. A few days ago, he was down at, I saw him down at what, like minus 280 or something like that? That can't exist anymore, can it? Let's see where this is at now. I'm expecting this to have gone crazy. When I saw it was minus 280. Let's see here. And that would have been bettable, honestly. Where is he at now? Okay, minus 300 still. But, and again, I think that's bettable. I think he's parlayable. I think finding a number on him inside the distance, anywhere around minus 150 would be playable. You never know with some of these guys in the regional scene, though. You don't want to have like a Sugar Sean O'Malley, Chris Motino situation where you just find the one guy in Pete Rodriguez who's 4-0 and just for some reason you just hit him with everything but the kitchen sink and he still doesn't go down and you're holding that inside the distance bet. But I think it's pretty safe. If you had something around like minus 150 or so, I would take that inside the distance. But yeah, that's my prediction. Jack Della Madelena by KO TKO round 1. Okay, we just finished talking about a fight in Jack Della Madelena and Pete Rodriguez where there was a huge skill discrepancy, in my opinion. And I think it's not too hot of a take for this next fight. There's one as well. Iliot Topuria, undefeated, featherweight versus Charles Air Jourdain. This one really does suck. I mean, for one thing, we're supposed to get Iliot Topuria versus Movsar Evloev. I like both guys. I also like Charles Jourdain. Now, I can admit that it's not a good matchup for him. I don't think it is. I think, once again, he's got kind of like a Hail Mary striking chance. He does have a chance in this fight, but, I mean, it's just so hard to find a hole in Iliot Topuria's game. And I think that this guy is only, what is he, like 25 years old only, I want to say? Both guys are pretty young here, but Iliot Topuria is, for as experienced as he is, and just, as experienced looking as he is, 5'7", 69-inch reach at 145, 25 years old. Just turned 25 years old a day or two ago, versus Charles Air Jourdain, only 26. So 2 young guys, a lot of promise. Iliot Topuria giving up a couple inches in height. Reach is about the same. Again, what can you say about Iliot Topuria? The heaviest favorite on the card, minus 530 betting favorite. The comeback in Charles Air Jourdain, plus 390. And if you're going to take Jourdain in this fight, I would probably just take him to win inside the distance and just juice up that number even more, just because, do you really see him beating Iliot Topuria? Probably not in a 3-round fight. I don't see him outskilling Iliot Topuria in a 3-round fight. Now, even if he fights with the aggression that he just fought against Andre Ewell, I think he's going to get countered all day. He's going to get out-grappled. I don't even know why Iliot Topuria would waste his time striking with Jourdain why not just exploit his weaknesses in the grappling and just get it over with? I mean, I could see him finishing this fight in a number of ways. I think he's got the better cardio. He's got the better, I think he's got the better counter striking on the feet. And the grappling is just night and day between these two guys. So I could see Iliot Topuria finishing this inside the distance. If Charles Jourdain is kind of gritty, though. I mean, he's 12-4-1 for a reason. There's a couple of fights in there where I think he could have pulled off the victory, had just a couple minor things gone his way. He's definitely got a future, and I think he just re-signed another 4-fight contract with the organization. So they still like Jourdain. He's filling in on short notice here as well, which is not going his way. So give me Iliot Topuria inside the distance. I'd say Iliot Topuria by round 2 submission. Okay, a fight that we've kind of been teased with for the past, I feel like it's been a couple of months. They've always been sprinkling this in as a potential fight on the card. Raoni Barcelos, one of my favorites, versus Victor Henry. Fight down at bantamweight. And it really is just one of the true MMA tragedies that Raoni Barcelos is 34 years old at bantamweight. And he just, in the past couple of years, has had so many fights, high-level fights fall through, where he would have faced near-ranked opponents, top 15 guys, and the fights just fell through during the COVID era. He just bounces back and tries to fight whoever he can. And he's coming off of that tragic loss to Timur Valiev. I was betting on Raoni Barcelos in that fight, and yeah, he just got outworked and just the output of Timur Valiev. That's not a bad loss to have. I'm a big fan of Timur Valiev too. Very talented guy. I think the movement of Timur Valiev, all of the different strikes and feints that Timur Valiev threw at Raoni Barcelos just really threw him off. I don't think he was used to having that kind of speed, mobility, and just tricky striking thrown back his way. Usually he's doing that to his opponents. So I think that stunned him, and that was a very, very close fight. I mean, that could have even been a draw, in my opinion. So now he's taking on Victor Henry. Victor Henry making his debut, another one of these debutantes. And this is a guy who, 21-5 record, it's kind of about time that he's in the UFC. I know he trains with UFC caliber guys like Josh Barnett, I want to say. And he's got legitimate skills. I mean, they're both the same age here, so age is not like Raoni Barcelos is going to be the oldest bantamweight in the octagon on Saturday. Both 34 years old, both 5'7", and I think there's an inch of reach between them in the favor of Victor Henry. So a lot to like with Victor Henry. I think he's UFC caliber for sure. I think he's going to win some fights. I don't think this is the fight to win for him. And since this fight's been delayed a couple of times, at least he's had kind of a longer time to prepare and tailor a game plan for Raoni Barcelos. But I don't think it's nearly enough. I mean, it's only been a few weeks this fight's been delayed. So number of pro fights experience goes to Victor Henry as well. Another thing going for him. But Raoni Barcelos' striking is on a different level. His grappling is on a different level. I can see him mixing a variety of attacks to Victor Henry's way. I can see him outstriking him on the feet, changing levels and grounding him. And as long as Raoni Barcelos is active for 3 rounds, he will win this fight. Now, if he gets, more output thrown his way than he's dishing out, like in the Timur Valiev fight, Victor Henry could find a path to victory and spring a huge upset on a highly touted, highly talented guy in Raoni Barcelos. I don't know. I don't see it happening. Hopefully, that was just a one-time thing against Timur Valiev, since Timur Valiev is that talented. He's on that level of Raoni Barcelos. And I think that if Raoni Barcelos is, unless he's fading away as a 34-year-old bantamweight, I don't see it happening against Victor Henry. I think Raoni Barcelos should win this fight. As far as the odds go for this fight, again, another steep price. I mean, everybody knows how talented Raoni Barcelos is. So we're looking at when I last looked at this, it was something. It was nearing minus 400. I want to say for this fight for Raoni Barcelos. Let's see where it's at now. Yeah, minus 420. Raoni Barcelos plus 320. The comeback on Victor Henry. I mean, I don't see value on either side of this right now. That line is pretty juiced, even for Raoni Barcelos. Plus 320 for Victor Henry. I mean, I just don't think there's enough avenues for him to win this fight to even take a stab on that juicy underdog number. So give me Raoni Barcelos, and give me Raoni Barcelos to win by a 3-round decision. Okay, this next fight's a little bit scary for a number of reasons. Rodolfo Vieira versus Wellington Turman. And the reason this fight scares me is because I have to pick a winner out of these two. I don't think Wellington Turman's the most trustworthy guy, not the most durable guy. And Rodolfo Vieira, even though he looked okay in his last fight against Dustin Stoltzfus, for whatever we can, whatever that's worth, he still has that fight 2 fights ago against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, where he death-gassed in round 2 and got choked out, got beat at his own game. The one thing he's known to do, he got beat by because he was basically like a cardioless corpse in the center of the octagon and got guillotined by Anthony Hernandez. I have not forgotten about that. I think a lot of people in the betting world are just taking that to be, I don't know, a flash in the pan or something, because I see a lot of people picking him, and he is the heavy favorite in this fight. I'm not sure if that's faith in Rodolfo Vieira or if they're fading just the overall fight IQ and durability of Wellington Turman. I know Wellington Turman's been underwhelming, but he's got a few things going on his side here. I think he could definitely outpoint Rodolfo Vieira, even if Rodolfo Vieira wants to play the kind of the smarter game plan he played against Dustin Stoltzfus, where he conserved energy in round 1 and slowly ramped up, tried to submit him like crazy in rounds 2 and 3, and finally got it done early round 3. You know, I think there's plenty of opportunity in round 1 to get some output against Rodolfo Vieira. Obviously, you're going to be the better striker against him if you're Wellington Turman. You know, so if you could jump on him early, win minutes early, win a round 1, and just stay defensively sound, maybe he gasses out round 2 and 3, and you could potentially get a finish on him, or you could just win a decision because you won all the minutes, while he got more and more tired and Vieira was just jumping for limbs, you know, haphazardly. I'm not quite sure. We know that Rodolfo Vieira is he's very, very physically strong and probably will just pull Wellington Turman into a submission. But I think that at a plus 220 underdog price tag, I don't think that's too bad for the younger guy, the guy who you'd want to assume is improving as the younger guy, and somebody with such a discrepancy of just better striking on the feet. I mean, Rodolfo Vieira is kind of a one-trick pony as far as his grappling, but he does it very well. I mean, when you're that skilled in one aspect of fighting, I mean, you can make it work, especially against guys on the level of talent as Wellington Turman. But I just think at plus 220, and the minus number I see on Vieira, I just don't trust him at that minus number. I don't trust him at minus 285, minus 300 to not gas again. We just saw him absolutely just be dead in the water in round 2 fights ago. How am I going to trust him at minus 300? I'm not going to. I'm going to take the underdog stab on Wellington Turman. Will I be betting it? Absolutely not. Even if you're going to bet like a decision-only prop, I wouldn't want to box myself into that, because he could get a late-round finish over Rodolfo Vieira if he wanted to. Well, not if he wanted to, but if the opportunity presented itself, and we're going with the theory that Vieira could absolutely death gas late in rounds 2 or 3, the finish would just present itself to Wellington. Even Wellington Turman could get a finish there, you know? So I still have not forgotten. I can't shake the fact that 2 fights ago, he got beat by Fluffy Hernandez by submission. So I'm not going to trust him at minus 300, and I'm going to take the stab on Wellington Turman. I'll take him to either a round 3 finish or a decision victory for Wellington Turman. Okay, now we've made it to the main card. I think opening the main card is Cody Stamann versus Said Nurmagomedov. And this is something I'm excited for. I like both of these guys a lot. It's been a while since we've seen Said inside the cage. And with the last name Nurmagomedov, you just know the betting line's going to be a little bit steep on him, just because of anytime you've got the name, you know, Ov or Magomedov or, you know, Duraev or anything that ends in a V, you're going to have this kind of like inflated line just because people are going to think you're fighting like Khabib, and this guy does not fight like Khabib at all. For having the last name Nurmagomedov, I mean, he's a real elusive striker, likes to stick and move on the outside, use his range that he usually has over his opponents down at bantamweight to his advantage. And looking at the measurables, he will have a couple inches of height, 5'8" versus Cody Stamann's 5'6", and he'll have a 70-inch reach versus 64.5-inch reach for Cody Stamann. So he's going to try to use that to his advantage. Cody Stamann, somebody who's known for attempting a lot of takedowns, using his boxing to set up, the grappling heavy game. And he has attempted a lot of takedowns in the UFC. I mean, just in his professional career alone, I mean, I think he's attempted something in the number of like 50 plus takedowns, and I think successfully landing about half of that. So Saeed definitely does not have that numbers. Saeed's definitely always on the defense, trying to scramble back to his feet and work his striking and range game. So again, something that may or may not have worked in his favor. He's taken a lot of time out of the cage. I know he had a fight in the fall that fell through, but being on the age that he is, I think he'll only have used that time to get better as a fighter. He's not even 30 years old yet. Cody Stamann, I think, is right around like 32 years old. Just a little bit, he's still got room to improve, but he's been a lot more active. So that may be for better or for worse. I think he just signed. A new contract as well, and I believe that's correct. And he's got some forgivable losses. I mean, losing to Merab Dvalishvili, like really not. I mean, that's one of the best guys in the division with a really, really high ceiling. Talented guy, can do it all. I don't really fault him for a loss to Merab. Jimmy Rivera, again, kind of a perennial top 10 guy. He's got that draw with Song Yadong, majority draw, so that could have gone kind of either way. Beat Brian Kelleher, an impressive opponent, and another loss in the UFC to Aljamain Sterling. But overall, he's got a lot of experience in the UFC, a lot of pro experience in general. And I could see him definitely having a path to victory in this fight. I mean, he can mix it up well if he can just get in close to Saeed Nurmagomedov, cut off the cage, and really just, employ, work up top with the striking, and then get in close in the hips, get him against the cage and drag him down and keep him there. The issue with Cody Stamann is that even though he gets and attempts a lot of takedowns, he doesn't really hold down his opponents that well. He doesn't have a whole lot of control time. And as far as winning minutes on per round, that kind of worries me a little bit. I could see him. I don't see him getting the better of the striking against Saeed, so he's going to need to get some control time and ground the more mobile opponent in Saeed Nurmagomedov. And I'm not, just based on the numbers I see, I'm not really confident in doing that. He definitely could do it if all it takes is one successful takedown and him to have worked his grappling game a bit to advance positions, advance from side control to to half guard to full mount, and he could definitely rain down some strikes and hold him down and win minutes that way. But the numbers don't support the fact that he's going to be able to do that. And I can see Saeed's pretty strong at getting back up to his feet and employing his game at range. So I'm going to take Saeed Nurmagomedov at -200 or so. I'm not sure there's a lot of value there in that bet either. I think Cody Stamann is a live underdog in this fight. And I think he's going to want to right the wrong that he's had in the past couple of fights, especially the loss to Merab. I think he's going to want to correct that loss. And Saeed has been out of the cage for a while now, so could there be some ring rust? Perhaps. I don't think so. I'm going to go with Saeed to win a very competitive decision victory here for Saeed Nurmagomedov. Fun fight up next. We got Michel Pereira, who was supposed to be taking on Muslim Salikov, but now he's taking on Andre Fialho, which is a short notice replacement. I think they had this on the docket for last week for just a moment, but maybe it was COVID protocols or something else. They moved it to this week. So either way, excited. Andre Fiallo has he's been on the regional scene for a while now, and I've seen him fight. He's fought in Bellator, I believe. He's fought in he was like in the first season of the new PFL a couple of years ago. So he's been around and he's fought some pretty game opponents. The guy's got skills, man. I'm glad to see him in the UFC. It seems like he's already been in the UFC already, just based on his name being around the regional scene and taking on UFC, either UFC fighters before they get to the UFC or past released fighters he's faced. So he's just always been in the mix. The guy's got skills. He's a very well-rounded fighter, and I just don't think this is the spot for him to get a victory. Against Michel Pereira, who's coming off of a victory of Nico Price. He's had victories over Chaos Williams, which has aged well. So a lot of this guy's victories and wins in the cage are actually aging well. Probably better than when he got the victory. Like Chaos Williams has taken out guys like Miguel Baeza, who's super talented. So for Michel Pereira to be able to slow down his game a bit, maybe not do like 10 cartwheels on his way to the cage and gas himself out. He seems a little bit more measured. He seems like he's mixing up his skills a little bit more. And I think this is a great opportunity. I was really looking forward to him facing Muslim Salikov, just because it's another guy who likes to throw flashy strikes, spinning attacks, stuff like that. But to welcome the newcomer, Andre Fiallo, again, I'm game to watch Michel Pereira fight whenever he does, whoever, wherever. I was hoping that this would have a little bit more meaning to his spot in the rankings, but Andre Fiallo, like I said, I mean the guy's got some names under his belt. I mean, I'm not talking about his last opponent, who was, I think it was Stefan Sekulic, who went like 0-2 or 0-3 in the UFC. That was his last win. But Andre Fiallo, I mean, he's got the guy's got some good striking, he's got some good finishing power. But like I said, I think Michel Pereira has kind of passed that test of facing guys that have the KO power. He's such a long and rangy fighter for the weight class, and he's proven that he can stay out of harm's way and kind of employ that stick and move game and actually mix in a lot more skills than just his flashy striking. So I'm going to take Michel Pereira, and I could see him winning. I could see him winning by finish in this fight. I'm going to take Michel Pereira by TKO in round 2. As far as the betting lines go, Michel Pereira, I think he's going to be I don't think it's too high, but he's a slight favorite in this fight, as he should be. I mean, he's the established guy. But we're looking at Michel Pereira. Oh, that line's actually exploded. Yeah, so minus 290, and Andre Fiallo plus 230. Where did this open up at? Okay, Michel Pereira, yeah, I mean, this is more where I thought it would be. Minus 250, and now, like a lot of these lines, as I've mentioned, have exploded up to a little bit inflated. But I think Michel Pereira is a pretty safe pick. The fact that Andre Fiallo is coming in on short notice, and I think that Michel Pereira is just going to be able to beat him even at his own strengths in this fight. So I think Michel Pereira is parlayable. I think Inside the Distance is live. And yeah, I'm going to take Michel Pereira by second round TKO. All right, this might be the most puzzling fight on the card as far as which side I want to put myself on this fight. Deiveson Figueiredo really made a fan out of me on his rise to the championship crown here. All those fast finishes, I mean, the Joseph Benavidez fights, the Perez fight, I mean, everything looked great. Even it was such a fun fight. That might be one of my favorite flyweight fights ever, was when he took on Brandon Moreno the first time in December of 2020. I mean, that was such a fun back and forth fight, and Figueiredo would have won that fight had it not been for the point deduction. So when I saw him in the rematch and he just looked totally beside himself, like it just looked like the weight cut was the issue. And that's one of the main narratives for this fight, is that his weight cut was so tough last year that's what caused him, that you can just excuse this loss and that he should come back in here and destroy Moreno just like he did in the first fight. But so that was kind of my mindset before I did the tape study. was I thought I just want to give him a pass on that one and just think he'll be back to his normal self. But when you really look at that fight, I mean, Moreno looked very improved. I had to give Moreno credit when I watched the fight over again. And also when I watched their first fight in December of 2020. That fight, Moreno looked really good. I mean, that was a competitive fight. I mean, he definitely dropped around 5. But aside before that, I mean, he's clinching in close against Figueiredo. He's landing some really, really powerful counter shots. And he was eating everything that Figueiredo threw his way. And then in the rematch, he just looked like he had figured him out even more. So whether Deiveson Figueiredo was affected by that weight cut so badly that he, lost the fight solely because of that, I no longer am on that side. And I came in this fight wanting to bet Figueiredo. And when I saw that he was at a juicy, like, plus 140, plus 150 number, and in my opinion, I was like, this is the rightful champion. If it wasn't for that last fight, we'd be getting the champion at plus 150. I mean, this is a guy that was just destroying people. But then I really had to go back and look at really what's happened. I mean, I was kind of in awe of all of the championship bouts that Deiveson Figueiredo, was just making look so easy when he was champion. But when you really look at who he was beating, I mean, you're looking at Joseph Benavidez, a guy who was definitely on the decline, and he beat him twice, so, and by finish too. Early second round finish in the first fight and first round finish in the rematch. Then Alex Perez, who came in on short notice, gets guillotined in round 1, and then he goes right into facing Brandon Moreno. So he had a lot of momentum going in, a lot of, I think, like 4 finishes before he faced Moreno, 4 finishes straight. So he was just looking very unstoppable. And at men's flyweight, I mean, that's definitely eye-catching because you're not used to a lot of these guys having that potent finishing power. So when I went back and looked at the tape, I am now on the Brandon Moreno side. I think he has Deiveson Figueiredo's number. I think he figured him out. And I think all of this confidence of him winning the belt and dethroning this champion, I think he's going to come in here and be, equally as impressive as the last fight, if not more so. I think Deiveson Figueiredo might try to play a more smart, tentative game plan early. I think he might try to drag this fight late and kind of work like the first fight where he outpointed him and kind of picked his spots and didn't just empty the gas tank, desperately looking for that knockout shot early. I think he's going to try to slow down. I think it's going to be a tentative feeling out process in round 1 and slowly accelerate as the fight goes on. But I think Brandon Moreno's got his number, and I think Brandon Moreno will win a very decisive decision. Like, I think it's going to be, I think it'll be one-sided, honestly. I really do. I'm not saying he won't drop a round or 2, but I think it's going to be, I think you're going to clearly know who won the fight by the end of it. By the end of the 5th round, when the bell rings, I think you'll know that Brandon Moreno is still the flyweight champion of the world, and I think he's going to impress a lot of people, and I think he's here to stay as the champion. And that's not how I went into the tape study feeling. Like I said, I wanted everything in the world to bet plus money on the former champion, but I just can't do it after watching the tape. I really believe in Brandon Moreno now, and I think he's going to get it done by decision. Okay, I already did a video on just the heavyweight fight in general, the main event, Cyril Gane challenging for the belt and taking on Francis Ngannou. This has to be the biggest heavyweight fight in UFC history. I think it just has to be, just because we finally have somebody who's undefeated taking on a guy who's just looked unstoppable outside of maybe 2 fights early in his career. The only 2 fights that he just didn't look impressive were the first Stipe fight where he gassed out, and the Derek Lewis fight after that where, just absolutely nothing happened in that fight. They were both so tentative, and I don't think that Francis Ngannou exists anymore. I think he's vastly improved, and the rematch against Stipe, I mean, Stipe had nothing in that fight. I mean, he was absolutely on the back foot the entire time and got nothing going in the, 1 round and 1 minute of that fight. And he just got taken apart and dethroned. So I think that Francis had nothing too great that we're going to miss. So I can't wait to watch this fight card, and good luck in all your betting action. 3 and around 4 and around 5. Because the only time we've gotten a chance to see that was the first Stipe fight. So there's still questions there, People all of a sudden think he's some great wrestler because he stuffed, one easy takedown against Stipe Miocic. Now, if that would have been in round 3 or round 4 or round 5, would he have been able to stuff that single leg takedown of Stipe? Maybe, maybe not. But Stipe also was super small for that fight as well. Stipe was like the lightest he's ever weighed for a championship fight against Ngannou. So I think that was just like the extra 40, 50, 60 pounds of muscle that he had over Stipe. He was able to just like kind of manhandle him and make that takedown attempt look like a joke. So that's not going to be the case with Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's a guy with all of the blessed genetics that Francis has. Their reach is around about equal. They're about the same height. Just two giant heavyweights. Usually Francis sometimes even has a speed advantage over his opponents, just the way he blitzes in with his reckless strikes. But Ciryl Gane is so elusive, so mobile. He can hit you with, he's going to be hitting Francis with a southpaw stance he's not used to seeing, and he can switch stances at will. So he's going to be giving all kinds of different looks, different feints. I think he's going to frustrate Francis Ngannou with the inside-outside leg kicks, just teep kicks to the body, strikes to the body. If Francis gets in close, I think he's going to get jabbed in the face. I think he's going to get elbowed in the face. Ciryl Gane just throws spinning back kicks at will. Just very, very accurate, precise striker. I think his striking accuracy is something crazy, like near 60%, which outside of Alistair Overeem is the highest number anybody's seen in the heavyweight division. And we've seen him go 5 rounds, time after time. So I think he'll get it done inside the distance, too. I think Ciryl Gane has a great chance of getting this done inside the distance. I'm sure if you were to sprinkle like a Ciryl Gane in round like 3, 4, and 5, just sprinkle like a tenth of a unit of both of those. I'm sure that it's something crazy, like in the plus 1,500 to plus 2,500 range, somewhere in there. I just don't trust that. I see a lot of people think that if Ciryl Gane wins, it'll be by decision. I'm not sure about that. I just don't think that Francis Ngannou will last that long against Ciryl Gane. I think that if Ciryl Gane has success in this fight and doesn't get knocked out cold in rounds 1 or 2, I think that he's going to frustrate the hell out of Francis Ngannou with all of his strikes. I think he's going to tire him out, and I think eventually Francis will get desperate and empty his gas tank a bit trying to finish Ciryl Gane, and I think Ciryl Gane will pick him apart. And, I think if Ciryl Gane has success and gets out of the first round, I think he will very, very, very much frustrate Francis Ngannou and finish him inside the distance. Inside the distance is at plus 170. That's where, when the props dropped on Monday, that's where I got it at. So I have 1 unit on Ciryl Gane inside the distance. As far as the confidence, obviously I can't be too confident against Francis Ngannou. The guy's got absolutely death touch power in each hand, and even though Ciryl Gane is undefeated, he can still be fit. I don't think he's invincible, and I think if Francis, all it takes is 1 shot to finish the fight. So shout out to Uncle Weezy MMA for his stats. He's got the significant striking stats for Francis Ngannou, and he, based on his stats, I think 4% of all Francis's landed strikes in his MMA career have resulted in a knockdown. So, and most of those knockdowns, his opponents are not getting back up. So, if that's all it takes, if 1 out of every 20-some strikes from Ngannou results in a knockdown, there's a good chance that Ciryl Gane gets knocked out here. But just as in terms of avenues that one can win, Ciryl Gane has every avenue to win this fight, and I think he's going to win inside the distance and new UFC heavyweight champion. All right, that's the entire full card breakdown. I'm sure we'll lose a couple of these fights, but hopefully it's like Vanessa Demopolis or something like that. Nothing too great that we're gonna miss. So I can't wait to watch this fight card, and good luck in all your betting action.